Welcome to the Higher Education Access Corner. I'm your host, Tiffanie DeVan, and I am excited today to bring to you all my special guest, Mr. Jim Steeley, President and CEO of PHEAA. Welcome to the Higher Education Access Corner.
Hi, Tiffanie. It's great to be here.
All right. And for you all, this is going to be the very last episode of 2022. And today, Jim is going to talk to us about a look back of 2022. So it's like a retrospective, or as we reflect on some of the key things, the highlights and the successes, throughout PHEAA. But before we get started, what I do want to do is I want to make sure I share this hearty bio of Mr. Steeley's. So allow me to go ahead and talk about that. Recently recognized as one of the Commonwealth's most influential education leaders, Jim Steeley is President and CEO, Chief Executive Officer for the Pennsylvania Higher Education Assistance Agency. PHEAA is one of the nation's leading providers of student financial aid services while serving millions of students through guarantee, servicing, financial aid processing, and other programs and services. Jim joined PHEAA in 2015 as PHEAA's Chief Financial Officer and was named Chief Operating Officer in 2018, before officially taking on the role of President and CEO in 2019. Prior to joining the agency, Jim established a successful career in finance servicing as Senior Vice President, Corporate Controller, and Chief Accounting Officer at Susquehanna Bankshares Incorporated, Assistant Vice President of Finance at the Pennsylvania State Employees Credit Union, and a Senior Manager in Financial Services Practice for PricewaterhouseCoopers LLP. Jim is also a certified public accountant licensed in the Commonwealth of Pennsylvania and earned his Bachelor of Science degree in accounting at Elizabethtown College. Quite a hearty bio.
Oh, thank you.
Thank you for being here with us.
Well, thank you for that kind introduction.
All right. So, Jim, we're going to go ahead and we're going to get started. So, I personally am someone who is from the area, and when we talk about PHEAA, or the Pennsylvania Higher Education Assistance Agency, many people know PHEAA as the student loan agency, but we are so much more. So just to start out, can you allow our listeners to know from your own perspective, or in your own words, who is PHEAA and what we represent?
We are, you're absolutely right. We are so much more. PHEAA was created in the 1960s, and we were really created for a couple of reasons. Primary reason was administrating the Pennsylvania State Grant Program. We were also created to serve as guarantee agency for the old FELP loan program, and that enabled lenders in Pennsylvania banks and credit unions to make FELP loans, which were federally guaranteed through PHEAA. And then PHEAA also participated in that program as a FELP lender. Over the years, we have evolved into a loan servicer, which is outside of Pennsylvania, probably most people know us, but we're really trying to refocus, I'd say, ourselves back on our core mission and reason for existence, which is promoting affordable access to higher education here in Pennsylvania.
Great. And one of the things that I know we do at PHEAA is, in addition to our mission for providing affordable access to education, we really focus a lot on giving back. And that's one of my favorite things. I'm actually part of the public service side of PHEAA. And so some of our core values that we have, we're focused on our customers. There's a commitment to respect, but I really want to focus on the citizenship piece. Our citizenship core value, as well as some of our other strategic priorities. When we're focusing on giving back, we're giving back within the agency, and then we give back to those outside. So one of the questions that I have that I'm sure our listeners would love to hear about is, what are a few contributions that PHEAA made throughout 2022 that benefited our Pennsylvania learners?
Well, maybe before jumping into 2022, just to maybe expand a little bit about how we give back and contribute throughout the agency, no matter what folks do in some way, to our mission of affordable access for higher education. One of the things that we've really tried to do over the last couple of years is communicate our mission and our strategy out to our employees and our workforce. You know, I believe that if folks understand our reason for being, our reason for existence, the role that we play in providing gift and grant aid here in Pennsylvania, that it creates a more motivated and educated workforce. It performs better. They're more engaged. So we really tried to define, I'll say, mission, our vision, And yet, to your point, we did spend some time on core values and define for the first time core values as well. With respect to the mission, our mission has been largely unchanged since the 1960s, provide affordable access to higher education, focused here in Pennsylvania. But what we did that hopefully helps both internal and external stakeholders understand that is we defined how we do that. We provide low-cost financial aid solutions. One of the things that often goes overlooked is that all these state appropriations to the PHEAA programs, 100% of those dollars go out the door because we absorb the cost of running those programs. So you can't get to a lower cost program than that. We actually contribute a significant amount of money to the state grant program. It varies by years, but by year, depending on budgetary needs of the Commonwealth. But during the administration of Governor Tom Wolf, his term's ending in about a month, but during his term, the 8 years he's been in office, we've contributed close to $500 million of cash that we've earned from other activities to supplement the grant programs. We assist families with navigating the financial aid process, which is really your front and center. And for those that are watching, Tiffanie is one of our higher education access partners, and they go around the state helping families directly and also helping guidance counselors and financial aid officers, high school guidance counselors and college financial aid officers to ensure that they have the resources they need to help families, thereby helping families make good choices, and educating students and families on financial literacy, which again, you play a key role in. So we wanted to try to tie in everyone to our mission in some respect. With respect to vision, we took some time probably about 2.5, 3 years ago and really reworked our vision statement. People always think of PHEAA as a servicer, but what I think is interesting, and I think even 2-3 years ago, we had a strong notion that for financial and other reasons, we wanted to move beyond at least federal servicing. We don't mention servicing in our vision statement, but our vision statement's to be respected leader in higher education, technology, and student aid, devoting our energy, resources, and imagination to helping current and future generations of students achieve their educational goals. And we put some aspirational things in there. I would say key aspirational things being both imagination and current and future generations. We have our programs that we've run, they're tried and true, but occasionally there's needs for new programs. And we've developed some new programs over the years in partnership with the legislature and others, targeted industry being one. We also, one of the more innovative things that we've done during my 7 years at PHEAA is probably about 4 or 5 years ago, we worked with the state treasurer's office and helped provide the seed money for a program that opens 529. We help fund the pilot program for a program that now opens 529 accounts for every child born in Pennsylvania. Now you think about that, and it puts $100 in. That's something that's a long-term investment. That's not something we're going to do next year or this year that's going to make a difference next year. Right. That's something that we're going to see the fruit of, in 18 years. But it provides, it gets that account open, which is often one of the key steps, and then it provides a vehicle where family members and others, instead of maybe giving a toy that'll last all of 3 months. And I have a 6.5-year-old, so I'm very familiar with, the cycle of wear and tear on toys and latest fads. But it provides a vehicle that family members can then, contribute additional money, and hopefully, you'll have the compounding effect, and then family members, and in time, hopefully, that will be something that can help finance that child's education. So we really wanted it to be, we know education cost and affordability and student debt are challenges in Pennsylvania. So we wanted it to be aspirational and forward thinking. And then with respect to the values you mentioned, it was really my team that worked on crafting the vision. The values actually was a grassroots and bottom-up effort where we had a series of employee groups, mostly individuals that graduated from our leadership academy that really took the time and had a lot of healthy discussions over several months to develop our core values, of which citizenship is one of the core values.
Mm-hmm.
So anyway,
I
digressed a little bit.
That's all right. That's good information. And then since you mentioned the core values, I'll mention all of them. Customer centric, for us to be customer centric, our commitment to respect, courage to evolve, and citizenship. And for our listeners who want more detailed information, all of this good stuff is available on our website at PHEAA.org. So again, thank you for bringing that up. So we'll dive then into just some of the contributions that PHEAA has made throughout 2022 that specifically have benefited our Pennsylvania students, Pennsylvania learners, or families thereof, parents of.
Well, one of the things that we're most excited about this year in 2022 is that our state grant program, which is our flagship program, it was one of those three primary reasons we were created in the 1960s, that hit its high water mark. Our maximum award for this current academic year is $5,750. Now it varies, the awards vary depending on family income, depending on cost of attendance, depending on other gift and grant aids those students might get. But the neat thing with this grant program is the money follows the student.
Right.
So it actually creates a little bit of a incentive out there for the colleges to compete, and also because it is based on need, it creates a vehicle where the colleges might be enrolling individuals that otherwise could get overlooked or fall through the cracks in the financial aid and higher ed finance landscaping. So really one of the things we're most excited about is the $5,750, and it's really is a big achievement. Some other areas.
Can I add one thing to that as
yes.
well? Because I think that is a great point. In being a higher education access partner, we really strive to get our students and families to understand that Pennsylvania State Grant really does help those students and can bridge that gap for that person who just, they see the costs and they don't have a lot of options available to them. So kind of gives them that access, builds on our mission, providing affordable access to higher education. But by them increasing it up to 5,000, a maximum of 5,750, we could possibly reach maybe up to 106,000 students and families. So I think that's also impressive.
Yes.
So I did want to highlight that because, it does make a difference, and hopefully, students will continue to take advantage of the opportunity to apply.
Yeah, it's a great point with the reach. I mean, the fact that 5750 and reaching over 100,000 students, it really shows the breadth of the program. And it is something, that we do believe this program makes a difference. A couple of years ago when first moving out of the CFO role into the current role I'm in, I challenged our public affairs folks that, how do we know if we're really moving a needle? In terms of factors like debt per graduating senior. And what we found is that individuals that get the Pennsylvania State Grant Program and get a Pell Grant are on average graduating with somewhere a little over $7,000 less in student loan debt. And these are the neediest students. So, clearly the grant program is moving the needle for individuals that need help on their education, with financing their education. Some other areas that I do believe will move the needle, ready to succeed. If you think about the statistic I just cited, that the neediest students in Pennsylvania are actually graduating with, 50 or 7,000 less in debt than the average Pennsylvanian. It means that there's a cliff and there's a phase out, and we know that. The grant programs, whether our grant program, it does go up into, you would probably know the exact number, but somewhere in the 70,000s for a family of four. And, but Pell phases out well before that.
Mm-hmm.
So the idea with the Ready to Succeed program, and this is in the scheme of PHEAA, it's a relatively new program. It's probably just right around 10 years old, or a little over 10 years old. It sort of picks up where the state grant program leaves off, and that prior to this year was getting families up to 120,000. I believe that's now been increased to 130,000. Challenge with this program over most of those 10 years, it was never fully funded. So it's there's really two drivers. I mean, there's income qualifications for families' income, and there's also academic qualifications.
Correct.
So it's a combination of a need-based grant meets a scholarship, and it's a neat program from that regard. But unfortunately, for most of the existence of this program, many of the years it was only PHEAA putting money in. It was only in the last couple of years that we began to get an appropriation from the Commonwealth as a whole. And it was always, we typically only were able to fund ourselves, or the Commonwealth was able to fund about a third of the total need. So it became a first come, first served program. Right. And that's not really a great model to be running a program on. The state grant program is almost run like an entitlement. If someone meets the criteria, they're going to get the award. Unfortunately, Ready to Succeed did not have the funding available to do that. So this is the first year, as part of the budget process that the General Assembly and Governor Wolf went through, we were able to fully fund the program, and they increase the income requirements. So this is the first year that the families that meet the income requirements and the academic requirements should get their grant, which is, it's a little bit less than the state grant, but it's about a $2,000 grant. So, what I find it's going to be interesting is, does that move the needle? Like for this next bucket, where the grant programs and the Pell phase out, right. This at least will help a lot less than the state grant, but it'll help hopefully that group. Another neat program that we stood up this year was the student loan relief for nurses. And, really this was, there are a couple different either appropriations or grants of money we got from the Commonwealth from combination of the governor's office and some folks in the Senate, and then ultimately I think it was drove some of the early grants, and then Senator Hughes, Senator Collette, I believe, were key in really pushing that forward, and then it eventually was included in the overall budget. But it was a brand new program, and the idea was to provide relief for nurses that were on the front lines of the pandemic the last few years. And it can provide up to $7,500 in relief over the course of 3 years. And, what I'm impressed with and very proud of the PHEAA team is that we stood the program up and actually have dollars going out the door in less than a year. And,
impressive.
From, conceptualizing the program to execution, that's a hard thing to do probably anywhere, particularly in state government. So I'm very proud that we were able to stand that up and implement it in about a year's timeline.
And I think it's also it was perfect timing, because after the pandemic, things were tough, not just on, the nurses and doctors and everyone. So to be able to offer something like this, just to give them a little bit of relief,
yes,
it's not everything that they need, as a reward for everything that they've done. We can never really repay them for that. But I did like this one in particular, and I think that this was a great program to be implemented.
Very timely, and clearly has made a difference, or will make a difference. And hopefully it'll help with the fact that it's a 3-year program. Hopefully it'll help with some retention of nurses as well. Right. That's one of the goals as well, because that's very much an in-demand it's an in-demand field, and our population of nurses in Pennsylvania isn't what the needs have been for the state during the pandemic. Another area where we, I think really excelled is our PA Forward student loan program. And, this program, I think we excelled because it's only a little bit over 3 years old, but we've made meaningful inroads here in Pennsylvania. There's somewhere around, we believe, after all gift and grant aid is used, and the Stafford loans, which is the most affordable federal loan option, is used, there's somewhere around $1 billion of loans, private student loans, originated every year here in Pennsylvania, and about $1 billion in PLUS loans originated every year. So this provides another option for families in Pennsylvania, and we believe, so far we've helped somewhere, I believe around 6,000 families, and on average, we believe over the life of the loan, because we use municipal financing to fund the loan program, and then we pass, with municipal financing, you're really not able to mark up the loans. It's essentially a pass-through. What we pay to the bondholders is what, there's a slight cost for a couple of things, but then largely that drives what the borrowers pay. But it saves the average family that participates in that program around $2,600 over the life of the loan in interest expense alone. And that's on a balance of about $11,000-12,000. So you think about loan balance, if you're saving of $11,000-12,000, if you're saving $2,600 over, a 10-year borrowing period, hypothetically, that's a meaningful difference for a lot of families. And again, that's something that I hope over time, much like Ready to Succeed, will make a difference for, I'll say, more middle-income families. And then your team in particular has done a great job adapting during the pandemic, And for those watching, Tiffanie and her colleagues from, which we intentionally have scattered around the state, they work often out of their cars. But we were very much, and I think you could attest, we were very much an in-person driven model in terms of all of our outreach. And that needed to change, not just, So your team's done a great job of pivoting, moving to a virtual world. I've been very impressed how we've been able to continue to do outreach, particularly during some of those early years where, we were in complete shutdown situations.
It was a little scary at first.
Yes.
But we managed,
So the team at PHEAA has done an awful lot that I'm proud of, and I think all of our employees should be proud of during this last year.
I agree. And couple things just for our listeners so that you'll know, all of the programs that Jim is referring to can be found at PHEAA.org. So if you needed more information about our Pennsylvania State Grant Program, or even our special state aid programs, such as the Ready to Succeed Scholarship, the Nursing Loan Program, as well as PA Forward, or even some of the services that we do as Higher Education Access Partners, you can get all of those details directly on our website. In addition, I want to also just kind of put a little plug in there for a future episode. We're going to have an episode where we're talking about our PA Forward student loan program. Dan and Linda were a guest on one of the podcasts before, just talking about how to understand student loans. So we're going to have a specific episode where we're going to dig a little deeper into into our PA Forward student loan program, and talking about all the different benefits that you could possibly get if you're someone who's looking to borrow a private student loan. But another part I wanted to add on with our citizenship piece. So we know what we're doing for our Pennsylvania learners and our Pennsylvania students, but we're doing so much more than that. So we're also out in the communities, and we're doing more to expand. So if you can share some of the things that we're doing out there throughout our community to support, that would be great.
I'd be very happy to. Yeah, I'm truly day in and day out impressed with our team here at PHEAA, what they do in their jobs, what they do outside of their jobs. And one of the interesting things with community involvement here at PHEAA, we really have focused on it the last few years as part of our employee and community engagement efforts. But, a lot of places I've worked, I came from the corporate sector. Employees would go out and volunteer and maybe raise some money on their own, but then the employer would write checks to, these different organizations. Here at PHEAA, with a statutorily defined mission and reason for existence, we can't really do that. excess funds that we generate get plowed back into the state grant and other programs because our very purpose and reason for existence is charitable in nature. But that being said, our employees, in their lives outside of work, were very engaged and passionate about a number of causes. 3 that we've really focused on are the Food Bank, Big Brothers and Big Sisters, and the Salvation Army, as well as participating in the state's version of United Way, which is a program called SECA, or State Employees Combined Appeal. And, just to highlight a couple of those, with the Food Bank, before the pandemic, we would have individuals go over and volunteer packing, boxes, loading, unloading trucks, and the like. When the pandemic hit, the demands on the Food Bank and other organizations like it went through the roof. You had a lot of people who were very suddenly out of work and were in a bad financial position, and food security became a very real issue. It also became harder to volunteer. So one of the things, I give the Food Bank a lot of credit for developing what they call a virtual food drive, but we actively have been promoting that for our employees over the last almost 3 years now. And to date, we've raised over $19,000 from PHEAA employees through the Food Bank, Central PA Food Bank's virtual food drive. And it's a neat thing. You actually can contribute by clicking on items in a virtual grocery store and dragging it over to your cart. And then when you check out, you make the donation. I actually, the first time I gave through that, I got my son, at that point was much younger, to help with that. And, it was neat because it makes it a little bit more real than just necessarily writing a check or giving a credit card number to make a donation. You actually get that sense of putting the food in the virtual basket. Mm-hmm. So, for a relatively small workforce here in Harrisburg, and, with purely from the employees, the fact we were able to raise $19,000 is really, truly impressive, and I believe has made a difference for folks. With respect to Big Brothers and Big Sisters, our involvement there probably was really, truly a grassroots effort. We had a number of people that before we formalized some of these things were acting as Big Brothers, Big Sisters. We have an elementary school right behind our building. It actually...
Ben Franklin.
Yes, Ben Franklin. Yes, you can actually, look out the windows and see the elementary school. And we had a number of folks that were volunteering to be Big Brothers or Big Sisters. And, so then we actively, our employee engagement group actively latched onto that and promoted it. So we then had more employees acting as it. And at some point we began to start raising money, I believe about 3 years ago, for Big Brothers and Big Sisters with this Over the Edge event. There's one of the taller buildings here in Harrisburg. It's just over 20 floors tall. You can basically volunteer to, quote unquote, go over the edge and propel down the side of this building. I have not done that. But
now, for those who are not local to Harrisburg, there's a building, it used to be a bank. It's the Fulton Bank building. I'm not sure if it's still a bank there, but it is very, very high, and there are some brave souls that dive down. So I'm sure you're going to kind of elaborate on that.
We've had a number of folks over the years. The last year, Steph Martella and Kathleen Smith volunteered to do it. Steph Martella oversees our servicing operations, and Kathleen oversees a lot of our federal and outreach efforts. Kathleen liked it so much, she volunteered to do it again. But you actually get sponsored to, quote unquote, go over the edge. And, this year, Kathleen did it with our in-house counsel, Gene Sabota. And together they raised almost $7,400 for Big Brothers and Big Sisters of Central PA. So it was impressive to watch them do it. I went and watched from the safety of the ground, but
so you said you wouldn't want to do it?
Yeah, I don't know if jumping over the edge of a building's in my future, but yeah.
But that was quite a feat, and I think originally the minimum goal was probably maybe $1,500.
Yeah, it was $1,500,
yeah,
and
so then for us to give, to raise, almost like you said, $7,400. That's pretty impressive.
It's very impressive. And then one of the things that we've been doing for a number of years here at PHEAA is that we, like many organizations at Christmas, we have an angel tree. We do that for the Salvation Army. This year we collected 140 gifts for 140 different kids. And, it's, Christmas and the holiday season is really, a time that, to the extent you're able to help the less fortunate or help, kids that their families don't have the resources to, have big Christmas morning. I do believe that makes a big difference, and it's something our employees, I remember I walked down to the lobby. I was waited, of course, to the last minute to drop off my gift. I'm not great when it comes to holiday shopping in advance. And there was like 6 or 7 of those giant mail bins, like all lined up, ready to, where our facilities guys were getting ready to take them over to the Salvation Army in the mail truck. And it was impressive to see just the volume of gifts, stacked up like that in these 7 or so giant bins. So, and then SECA, this year we raised just over $15,000, and that's the sort of the equivalent of the United Way. In fact, I think SECA partners with the United Way, and essentially any United Way charity you can direct the money directly to. I personally picked the food bank because that's sort of something that's been near and dear to my heart for a number of years. But again, our workforce, I just can't say enough about our team, because not only do they give day in and day out as part of their job, the work that we do to support our community here in Harrisburg is just truly impressive.
I agree. And I'm someone who loves to give back, and that's something I do a lot of volunteer work. So when I see these efforts at the company that I work for, I applaud PHEAA for that, and all the employees who actually take the time to do that, to give of their own, not just like you said, while they're at work, but they're giving up their own time, their own money, their own resources. So that is an awesome thing to do. So kudos to all of the PHEAA employees, workers who are listening in. Good job, and continue to do so. Just to pivot a little bit more, what's in store? So we know what we were doing in 2022. We are right now headed into 2023, hard to believe. So what can we expect from PHEAA in 2023 or the near future?
So as we look forward to 2023 and beyond, I'm really looking for PHEAA to refocus ourselves on our core mission for Pennsylvanians. We consciously are, and have unwound components of our business that, didn't really contribute. They were not accretive to our mission, so didn't enable us to give additional money back. And they, weren't really in alignment with our core values. And, as we look forward to 2023 and beyond, I'm looking for us to, find new and creative ways to really focus on the education needs here in Pennsylvania. And, there's really, in my mind, there's 2 big challenges we have in Pennsylvania, probably nationally, but definitely here in Pennsylvania. We touched on them a little bit before, but, the cost of college and the financial aid resources available both at the federal and state level have not kept up with the cost of college. So we do have, unfortunately, a high amount of student debt that individuals are coming out with college. And, I'd really like one of our focuses as we conceptualize, how to modify or change or expand our existing programs or develop new programs, to focus on reducing the level of debt that Pennsylvania families are finishing college with. Concurrent with that is also want us to focus on ensuring that our college age workforce and our workforce in general is able to meet the needs of Pennsylvania. I see both as big challenges here in Pennsylvania. On the debt front, I talked before about how we do know the programs we administer make a difference. The $7,000 less in debt per graduating senior for the state grant and Pell participants is a meaningful number. The question is, how do we continue to grow that state grant program to help the population, but then also, that population's in the overall average, which means we have a challenge where these programs drop off. Mm-hmm. So, the state grant program phasing out in the 70,000 range, for a family maybe with 2 kids in college, they're not going to be able to come up with a lot of cash to help fill that gap. So how do we expand some of our programs to reach that population that, they make enough that they're not benefiting from the state grant program. They're not benefiting from Pell, maybe not getting a lot of institutional aid. How do we look to help that segment of the population? And there might be creative things, looking at time to complete degrees or, other factors, trying to work with the college community here in Pennsylvania. So I think we have both a challenge and an opportunity there. And I think, there's also non-financial ways you can tackle that problem. And that's where, your group comes in, is helping families on the front end make good choices. Really understand, we have tools available, my smart borrowing, education planner. Right. But, they're probably way underutilized. And I know one of the things we've been talking about is probably could use a refresh, give it a newer look and feel because it's been a little while. So focusing on ways to tackle that, the financial burden of families that are putting kids through college. And then, the other thing, looking through their, at the workforce, I'm, you mentioned in the introduction, I'm a CPA by trade. I've kept my certification current, which means I have to go take continuing education hours, typically 80 hours every 2 years. And after I left public accounting, I got all the education I needed in the public accounting firms, but I started to go to classes mostly given by our Pennsylvania Institute of CPAs here in Pennsylvania. It's a great organization, great education opportunities. One of the things that I've liked, at least pre-pandemic, with their classes, now lots become virtual, but getting to network with my peers from other industries and across the state. And what really struck me is, coming out of the financial crisis, when I would talk to a lot of my peers that worked for small manufacturing companies, controllers or CFOs of small manufacturers, their constraint to growth wasn't something related to the Great Recession or the financial crisis. Their constraint to growth was they did not have skilled labor. They were not able to attract and retain a skilled workforce. Now, I give a lot of credit, and this predates my time at PHEAA, with programs like the Targeted Industry Program that really focus on non-degreed credentials that, I believe has made a difference and will continue to make a difference. We expanded that a couple of years ago to include some other in-demand professions in the medical field, again, non-degreed. Right. And again, hopefully that is making and will continue to make a difference. The interesting thing now is, whether it's the Great Resignation or the after effects of the pandemic or just, trends in general, there's many professions that are starved for incoming talent. Even my own profession, I was on a update call from the PICPA, or a webcast probably about 2 weeks ago. And one of the things they were highlighting that's a real concern that they're trying to tackle is the pipeline of individuals coming into the accounting profession is pretty minimal. It's not sufficient to replace those that are retiring.
I do agree with what you're saying, because in talking to the students, the families, a lot of the things that they're saying, and talking to employers as well, and talking to the schools, you do have that shortage. You have a growing workforce, and you don't have enough people going into specific professions. So what happens? There's nobody there to fill these needs that we really have. It's scary.
It absolutely is. You hear a lot about it with teachers and nurses today. I think it's almost any profession where you need a core education and a core skill set. And this is probably more targeting the traditional college programs, but it's also where I think maybe our Access partners and others, could make a difference when coupling it with, the state grant and other programs. You think about a program like nursing or teaching or my profession, accounting or law or whatever, they're educating to a specific skill set. But then it's not just, when you think about the pipeline of a profession, they're educating you with the skills that you need, for the first couple years when you first get out of college and first complete that degree. But one of the values, I think, of a higher education and, a traditional bachelor's program is some of the other exposure you get, to some of the liberal arts classes. Might not help you land necessarily that first job. You might need a, clear degree in teaching, nursing, accounting, marketing, whatever, to get that first job. But this broader background, as you think about the pipeline issue that we're having with a lot of our professions, it's this broader background in education that then helps you with your second, third, and fourth job.
I agree. Yep.
And, that's really where, our enrollment is down in colleges, which is driving some of that. But that's, really what I think we need to focus on workforce, but not just, what we need a year from now or 2 years from now, but really how to, ensure we're creating these, the conditions that enable people to have a learning experience that lasts them a lifetime and carries them through their entire career. So, that's an area that I just see as a need and a challenge here in Pennsylvania. And I think it's something that, you and your team and the education efforts that you do, I think it's an area we have the ability to move a needle on, both through your outreach efforts and, some of the programs that we administer, looking at different ways to maybe enhance or modify the programs to meet the challenges in Pennsylvania.
And can I just add on one thing also, as we're talking, and a lot of times just as an Access partner, and we're talking to students, talking to folks in the schools, I tend to say college a lot. So as we're talking, I'm trying to reprogram my mind to say post-secondary, because it's not just your traditional four-year schools, business schools, technical schools, trade schools, those community colleges. And I want folks to understand that there's affordable access to education, whether you're going to any of those schools. So whether it's through our TIP program or it's our state grant program, that they can still reach this, because sometimes the workforce demands that you're talking about, we have those folks who are saying, hey, I want to be a plumber or I want to be an electrician and I plan to go to this particular school, but there's no funding. And that's not necessarily true.
That's where the PA TIP program comes in.
Right, and that's where our TIP program can come in to help secure and sustain the workforce.
Yes, yeah. And it really is looking at that whole ecosystem.
So I wanted to just say for our listeners, because we here at PHEAA, we talk college and it's with the assumed understanding that, we're talking an all-encompassing post-secondary school. So I wanted to make sure that everyone is aware that we're not just talking your traditional four-year school.
Correct.
All right. Anything else in store for PHEAA for 2023 that you wanted to highlight?
That's probably more than enough.
It works for me. Works for me.
A lot to tackle and a lot to do next year and in the years that follow.
It is. So a couple things that I just wanted to kind of recap really quickly that I thought were really important is we're talking about some of the key things that we've done throughout 2022. And I can say from a giving perspective, I think we've done an awesome job, from growing the Pennsylvania State Grant, our RTS, Ready to Succeed Scholarship Program, being fully funded, another good thing. Our nursing program that we have for them to be able to get their student loans possibly repaid up to a maximum of $7,500 over a 3-year period. In addition, our growth with our Pennsylvania PA Forward Student Loan Program and the public service outreach that we do as higher education access partners. I'm going to toot our own horn as PA Access partners. So there are 13 access partners throughout the state of Pennsylvania, and we each have a role to provide college and career-related services. We really focus on financial aid. And one good thing, we hosted over 800 financial aid nights and FAFSA completion sessions. So again, I'm going to toot our own horn because it was 2022, but I really want to make folks aware because we're still continuing to do that. And there is still a need for many families to get their education costs covered. So if you have some questions for any of us regarding our programs, our services that we offer, do not hesitate to reach out to any of us here as access partners. Don't hesitate to reach out to our resources that we have. You can find all of them available at PHEAA.org, right directly on our website. Again, Jim, thank you for joining me. But before I end, we're at the end of 2022. So are there any, and I know we all hear this question at the end of the year, do you have any New Year resolutions that, are hot and pressing for you that you want to accomplish?
Probably like many people, many years, including myself, most years, want to try to focus on maybe improving my health a little bit, eating a little better and being a little more active. The nature of some of what we do is we're very sedentary. So I want to try to focus on being a little bit more active in the new year.
That's a great resolution to have. I need to do that as well. I can't say that it's going to be my resolution for 2023 because I always fail at it. So I'm going to just aspire.
Well, I fail at it quite a bit
but
too.
I fail, so I want to aspire to do that.
Aspire to get better.
To get better. But it's not going to be my resolution. I again thank you for joining me here on the Higher Education Access Partner, being the guest for the last episode that we have for the year. I invite you to come back at any time as our CEO and president, or if you just want to come back and just have some fun, lighthearted words for our viewers about maybe possibly being a CPA as a career, or any other career that that pops up for you. So again, thank you.
Oh, thank you, Tiffany, and thank you for the work that you do. And your colleagues, they really are the front line of what we do. And for those that are intimidated with things like completing a FAFSA, which, it's a lot of information, not that dissimilar from doing taxes, but it's very, very important that everyone does it. But there's these events that they host, you can get hands-on help from an expert like Tiffany at these events. So thank you for the work that you do day in and day out.
Absolutely. Thank you. And to our viewers and our listeners, we're at the end of 2022. We thank you all for listening to the Higher Education Access Corner for 2022. We hope that you stick around and you follow us into 2023, where we will have many more great topics around affordable access to higher education. Thanks again and enjoy your day.